you and your expedition leader?
Oh, Hans Reinhardt.
Hans Reinhardt.
From Germany.
There are as many ideal holidays as there are holidaymakers, even if most nowadays seem packaged into the ice cream parlours of the Costa Brava. But young people are turning increasingly to a new idea, the adventure expedition. Tiring, uncomfortable, undoubtedly adventurous. You get out of it what you want to get. The desire has an honourable ancestry, cradled in travellers' tales and littered with roads like the Golden Road to Samarkand that have become legend. Each is a rainbow, with some ancient city as its crock of gold. The call of the muezzin, the plain song of the Muslim minarets, beckons the faithful across the Bosphorus. For our travellers, the summons is to a far more distant land. Istanbul will be but one stopping place on the journey from London to Nepal. This expedition's leader is Mike Demon. He's 28 and for 3 years has driven the road to Kathmandu and back. His passengers, 25 in all and mostly in their 20s, are as mixed a bunch as you could wish.
Right, here we are.
On this trip, we've got Susie, who's a professional photographer from New Zealand. There's Tanya, who's a secretary from London. Paul, who's a student from Canada. Ivan, a lifeguard from Australia. Valerie, a nurse from England. Peter, who's a Dutchman, and he's a carpenter. We've got a couple of Cockney lads, Paul and Jim.
Picture postcards of Istanbul mark the true start to the adventure.
There's Hagia Sophia.
Hagia Sophia, the great mosque that was once a church. A reminder that Istanbul was Constantinople, and before that Byzantium. Istanbul is the symbolic meeting place of Europe and Asia. It is our travellers' first real chance to test their dreams against the touchstone of reality. From London to Kathmandu by air is 4,500 miles. By road, it is 11,000. The party will cross deserts, 3 major mountain chains, and a segment of the earth more touched by history than any other. The 12-ton truck will take 3 jolting and jarring months to do it. Inevitably, one wonders about the sort of man who will choose to lead such expeditions for a living, as Mike Demon has done.
I worked for a firm of stockbrokers in the City of London. I was involved very much in doing investment analysis for mining stocks mainly, visiting companies that I would then write investment reports upon. I think subconsciously became jaundiced with the way of life that I was leading. One rainy winter morning when I woke up and I just couldn't face going into an underground train. And I just decided that was it, and I wasn't going to do it anymore. The southern coast of Turkey gives passengers their first feel of adventure. I think for all of our passengers, the allure of adventure is paramount. They could travel by plane. They could even travel in an air-conditioned coach. So there must be something that makes them choose to ride in the back of a truck.
Do you know what you expect from such a journey? Or is what you seek merely what you find? Is this how you'd imagined Ephesus, famed for its temple of Diana? Do you picture St. Paul preaching to the Ephesians? Or hear the furious voices of the city's craftsmen, angered by Paul's disdain of idols, meeting to protest in the theatre that could hold 25,000 of them?
All the way along there, they would have had their sort of dressing rooms and administrative rooms and so on. And then there's a tunnel which goes through from those ruins you see there, right into the floor of the stage, and that's where the actors would have...
What would they have done? Just acting? Would there been lions and things?
It was mainly dramatic performances and sort of choral works, I think, and so on. They had a very stylised...
It's terribly high up the top there. People at the back really were miles from the stage.
Yeah, but you find the acoustics in there are absolutely fantastic. Yeah? I mean, yeah, if you go and stand in the middle, and the rest of the group stands round the top up there, and you just talk in an ordinary speaking voice, the whole lot of them will hear you. Yeah. It's amazing.
Some may see this stop as the journey's high point. Others may prefer what the next holds. That's the point about such an expedition. You never know. Where you can't stop, the passing images provoke their own imaginings. The Lycian rock tombs at Mare Demre must have intrigued the many crusaders who came this way. And they didn't have time to stop either. On such a trip, a scene more suited to the family snapshot album serves a double purpose. There are already 3,000 miles of dust to be erased by the waters of the eastern Mediterranean, but there are 8,000 rugged miles still to go, with not a sea in sight. The first sight of the valleys of Cappadocia is what one might have expected from the surface of the moon. But this lunar landscape is inhabited, with dwellings carved as hideouts in the rock pinnacles by Christians fleeing Muslim persecution. The Christians left their mark before the encroaching Muslim settlements finally drove them out. The trail moves on to eastern Turkey. To the north, Mount Ararat, where Noah's Ark came to rest. To the south, Mesopotamia and the Garden of Eden. But this is no earthly paradise. The climate runs to extremes, and the fiercest day can be overtaken by a frozen nightfall. The expedition found it at first a hardship to sleep in sub-zero temperatures for 2 or 3 nights, but they got used to it. Gradually, you who travel become toughened. Remember, 700 years ago, Marco Polo came this way on his journey to the Great Khan, and he took 3 years about it. But the Kurds have been here since 1,000 years before that. They have survived in areas far more remote and far more wintry. To the Kurds, the traveller is a bearer of curiosities, of cameras and plastic clothing, but he is only of literally a passing interest. What does the Kurd, tough and dignified, need with our modern baubles, when his food, his tools and his techniques have served him well enough these past 2,000 years?